Boo, boo, boo. And we are almost live again.
All right, I think we're
I'm
good.
wondering if it's the live on Instagram that glitches it up some.
Mm-hmm. I'm about to go live too. All right, we're back.
And we're back.
Technical difficulties, but we are back, friends.
It happens again. So we're gonna we're gonna start off with our introductions, and then we're gonna dive into this very interesting and good conversation that needs to be had. I kind of feel like people shy away from talks like this sometimes, and we don't. So I am one of your hosts, Enovia Bedford, the founder of VetDeck, which is a multicultural marketing agency and technology platform that helps you make better decisions about who to partner with for sponsorship, and also the co-founder of the Sponsy Urge with Lily Doxy, where we pitch projects directly to the brand for folks. Lily.
And hello, everyone. I am the founder of the Sponsorship Concierge, focused on education and sponsorship for a lot of the newbies, building decks, editing decks, auditing decks, any strategy you need for sponsorship. I'm your girl. And I'm also co founder, as Anovia said, of the Concierge, where we help pitch for you.
Yes, yes, yes. So I'm just making sure that this old busted video that's like us in confusion is down.
Oh,
But we're gonna have to make sure it was off of LinkedIn. But so, everyone is so excited to get sponsorship, but people don't necessarily think about the other side of sponsorship, right? Especially for us consultants, or if you're the person that's pitching, what happens when a deal goes bad and what happens when you're at fault? So, of course, there are cases where the brands mess up, something happens, but what happens when you are the one that is not doing what you're supposed to do and now the deal has gone to hell? Can you,
you
can you
messed
recover from that?
you messed up. Um, yeah. It's like a hard question because I feel like you can, but like depending on what you did, you might not be able to come back. But we'll go through a couple points that we've seen, things that we think we can do to, I guess, help massage and repair the relationship. Because honestly, not everything can be repaired. Depending on how bad you went, it might not be. But if you're not that far gone, there's some things you can do. So I guess one, we want to think about how did you go wrong? Where did you go wrong? And one of the things we think about is you probably agreed to do more than what you actually were willing to do. So when you come to us, usually when we do our sponsorship, we tend to ask you, are you willing to give away the house, for example? Because if you're not, you need to tell us exactly what you're not willing to do because we have to pitch you a certain way. Because if you're open to any type of partnership or any type of activation, whatever, we can use that as leverage to get a sponsor. But if you're not really open to it and you just said it because, I don't know, you thought it sounded good, that's where you end up in the spot where you're like, you get a sponsor and you're like, oh, I didn't really want that. And you have to now go back to the sponsor and say, no, we don't want this free thing you said you're going to give us because I didn't want to give that away. I wasn't clear.
And I feel like that comes into when you're actually doing the planning of it, being realistic, right? You have to be realistic with yourself.
Yeah.
So, we get people all the time that are like, we our scale is 1 to 10, right? One being, I really don't want to give too much away. And we don't work with ones. We don't work with threes, we don't work with fours, we don't work with
That's
fives. We don't really work with sixes, right? So, because we need to be able to be flexible when we're talking to brands, and we need to be able to come up with things on the spot and have you agree to it, or, in our first conversations, know what you're agreed to. So, when you tell us, oh, I'm looking for a title sponsor that just wants to take over everything.
right.
Right, right. Because we've been told, I'll take anything, whatever you get, we'll take, right? And then we've secured things We've secured bags for people, $20,000, 15, whatever it is, and have in the final innings been told, well, actually, I'm not going to take it because I don't want to figure out how to play this video. I don't want to figure out how to take this picture. I don't want to figure out how to do this really simple thing. And so, two things happen. It's like, okay, of course, everyone has a right to change their mind. But when you're going into pitching and you're going into these deals and you're getting attention from these brands and you're having conversations, you have to, one, consider what it means for our relationships as the coordinators, the agents, whatever you want to call us, the sponsorship professional, what it does to our relationship. And then also, right, there's a line of people right behind us. So when we're talking to these brands and we're like, okay, we're going to do this, and then you say no, you can't double back. You can't really, come back.
Block like that.
You can't, not on these brands. Not only are you battling other events, you're battling influencers, right? You're battling nonprofits sometimes. You're battling programming. So really having a deep understanding of what you're willing to do. And sometimes, you can be overwhelmed with planning your event and all of that, which means that you are not ready for sponsorship.
And that's a fact. And especially if you're working with a sponsorship consultant or like an agency like us, if you're overwhelmed with certain things, we take on the sponsorship portion of it. So you don't have to really worry about that. So if you're worrying yourself about that and you're working with an agency, you got to calm down because we're taking care of all that. Because for us, when we're only speaking for the Sponcierge, if we partner and we work with you on an event, we're going to be there to take care of the sponsor that we secure for you. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I need to schmooze, or I need to do this. We're going to make sure that all those points that we've agreed to with that sponsor are getting hit. So that's taking away that extra burden on you thinking about, oh, I got to do all this for the event. You need to just worry about the event. We worry about the sponsors. And we tell you that. But I know some people are very type A and they're very like, I got to do this, got to do that. We are here to help you.
We're here to help. And we're here to check those things off, right? Mm-hmm. So whatever the deliverables are, your agents or someone on your team, and it might be you, right, are there to kind of facilitate that. So say, right, Lily, you have your list of deliverables, right? So you're like, okay, for this sponsor, I have to post on social before the event, during the event, make sure that they have space, make sure that before they get here, they have the run of show, they have the map of exactly where they're going to be on the floor, making sure all of these things, I got to take pictures, I got to do this, I got to do that. So say that they have 10 deliverables that you're supposed to do, and it is after the event, and you realize they might have come up to you and asked for specific things, you were overwhelmed, whatever it is. But at the end of the event, when it's time to report, you realize that you've only done 4 out of 6. Mm-hmm. What you do, Lily?
You cry. No. Well,
you don't blame us. No, I'm just kidding.
You don't blame us. You got to take responsibility because that's what you want to do. But that's where herein is where it comes the problem. Like a lot of people, when they're planning events, they're not thinking about points that they have to hit for other people. They're just thinking, I need to execute this event and I need to be done with it. But if you have, let's say, 2 sponsors and you promise them 4 things each and you only did 2, who do you have managing that? If you can't manage that, you probably don't need to have sponsors for your event, to be honest. Or you need to hire someone to manage that. You need to hire somebody to manage that portion for you. So if you can't do it, what do you say? My first thing is always going in with an apology and knowing that you didn't do it. And you have to be super sincere about it, because a lot of times when these brands are signing on to sponsor, their ROI might not be getting any money because they're probably not coming there to do any live selling. Their ROI was you giving us these 4 points. It could have been maybe a social media post, or it could have been getting X amount of people to visit that table, something like that. Whatever you needed to do, that was what their return on investment was. You're never going to ever repay them for what they're going to give you. If it's like a, let's say, especially with alcohol sponsors, like a full bar, you're not going to repay that. You can't repay that, because if everyone's getting unlimited drinks or whatever, you're not repaying that. So what you can do is start off by saying, my fault, my bad, I messed up, that is on me, but here's what I do have. And make sure like what you do have is like presented in a nice way. Even if you didn't have a nice way, you better open up Canva and turn it into something nice. But like whatever you do have, you need to make what you do have look a lot better than make up for you missing those two out of the four. But
you only got 4 out of the 10. You missed 6.
4 out of 10. Yes. So you need to dress it up real bad. Dress it up. So like I said, go into your little Canva, start your recaps and highlight all the good things. Even if you think it's like the smallest thing and it was some kind of positive point, add that in there because you missed a whole bunch. But you definitely need to, when you're addressing that email, you need to apologize and acknowledge that you missed certain things.
Absolutely. And because of like a 4 out of 10, that's 40%. You failed. You want to avoid making excuses and justifying your behavior. Mm-hmm. Oh, I was running around. Oh, I did it. Because when you were on that phone pitching, you were talking about how your event was the best and how organized you are and all of these things. So no excuses, no justifying. Be open and honest in your communication. Express your desire to repair that relationship. Do you have other events coming on that you can waive the sponsorship fee for to salvage that relationship? Tell them about your perspective on the situation and also actively listen to their concerns, right? Wow. We want this to always be a long road with these sponsors. Now, if you don't care and you just burning bridges left and right, that's on you.
We would advise not to do that because marketers job hop. So
job hop and talk. Okay. Job hop. We're gonna be at least four companies in a 10-year span, right?
In these company happy hours, we talk.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is that if you're doing an event and there are other sponsors, they're gonna talk to each other right there at that event.
Yep.
They're gonna be like, So even as a speaker, right? I find this all the time when I'm speaking at events. I ask other speakers like, "Did you get to run a show? Did you get this? Do you know where you're supposed to be?" And I keep track. I definitely keep a tally of, okay, well, the next time they ask me to speak, I'm probably going to say no. The next time they ask, us to help them get sponsors, we're going to say no. Mm-hmm. So all of this definitely has to be taken into consideration because I think that when it comes to sponsorship events, lines of professionalism definitely get blurred. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're having an event that's, less on the conference side, more on the fun side of things. But it's still a business and it's just like, oh, well, I didn't do this. That's fine. It's not fine. When people are cutting these checks, right? They have bosses to report to. Like taking on sponsorship is a serious thing. And you can't just, move about the cabin freely. And one of the other things is it is extremely hard to repair relationships if you've agreed for a sponsor to come on and you cancel last minute. If you cancel your event, and that's why for the sponsor urge, we require that you've been running your event for a minimum of 3 years. Like you've been doing it without sponsorship because we don't want to bring sponsors on and then you cancel in the final inning. Maybe you can't get enough money. That's why we require to see your budget before the event. Like you can't have people out here vouching for you and doing all this and then you cancel in the last month, right? Mm-hmm. And then on our side, if we're bringing deals to you, we're usually very clear about, the deals, the offerings, what we think, what the brand has said. I'm very open book. Lily is very open book. So if we bring you a deal and you're like, yeah, I want to do that. And then 24 hours before the event, you're like, you know what? Never mind.
Yeah, because it does not work that way. You can't do that. Like, I think people forget, like some of the sponsorships people get, this might be that company's first foray into working with that type of audience or working with that type of event. And they're trying to prove a point to someone higher up than them. Because I had to do that. I had to take a risk and say like, okay, Black people can do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to have to fight for it. But I can't have you cancel on me because you're just gonna make us look bad. Like, the point is to not, you don't know what's going on in the back end, especially as someone who's pitching to you. You don't know what that marketing manager has to deal with behind the scenes. You don't know if there's someone behind them saying, like, I don't really believe in this, but I'm going to give you a shot. And if you get that one shot and then you go and say, like, okay, you know what? Actually, I don't want to do it. You just made them look crazy. And now if you were working with us, you made us look crazy. And now if you want to go pitch on your own, you look crazy. We all look crazy.
And we've been made look crazy before.
Oh yeah, plenty of times. At 2
a.m., we've been made look crazy. And then on our end, we have to, say it's product, right? There's product waiting for somebody to pick up. And 24 hours before an event, we get notice that's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna pick up the full bar for 500 people that they've had to pay, to get transported to this location for us to pick up. And because we want to salvage our relationship with that brand, because these are our relationships, right? Sometimes we're building on the behalf of you. Sometimes we're building on the behalf of others. Sometimes we're building on the behalf of ourselves. Right. So now, we got other work to do and we thinking everything is all good and all gravy because the deal is done. Papers are signed, things are good. And now we're getting a message that's like, oh, actually, psych. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm planning the event. And now we have to save face with the company, right? So now we're like, okay, well, we got product for 500 people that we have to reroute. So now Lily and I are spending, it was damn near a full day, honestly.
It was
a full day.
At night. Why would y'all, I don't ever want to get a text in the middle of the night when I'm about to go to sleep, because Auntie needs to go to sleep by like maybe 11. But at like 2 a.m., I don't want to get a text saying that something fell through. After we solidified, we said, so-and-so is picking up at this time, this date, this location.
I texted because I got the email at 11:47 and I didn't know what to say. Sick. On a Thursday night going into a Friday. Sick. And it was like, okay, well, we have to save face now, right? So what do we do? And as the event organizers, sometimes y'all don't think about all the players involved. And, it is very self-serving, self-centered. And then when you think about, well, I don't know why nobody wants to sponsor my event. I don't know why I can't sponsor this, because that kind of behavior of someone that would do something like that shows behaviors of other things that you'll do, and people can see that, right? So despite initial, thoughts sometimes of like, we're not going to take this client on, sometimes we do. And that's when it don't work. Right? We get burned. So it was, a lot of trying to just maneuver and really make something shake and make things work, which we were able to do. However, we don't have a relationship with that brand anymore.
Because we had to come to them a couple of times and say, like, you know what, it didn't work out because so-and-so, for whatever reason, can't do it.
And that was the first time working with that brand. And that's the other thing, right? So as a sponsorship procurement team, we're generally talking to brands about multiple projects at once, right? So we're not just pitching this one project. We're like, okay, well, if I have, whatever it is on the line, if I have Tarani, right? Because I have my serve right here. If I have Tarani on the line, I'm pitching multiple projects to them. So if, and generally that's a really good way to go, especially if you have multiple events in the house, because then you can get a bunch of yeses. They can check stuff off throughout the year. It's good. So if we're pitching 8 projects and they say yes to 3 and 2 of them decide to back out, those numbers aren't looking good for us, right? And it was definitely one of those situations where like, brand don't even pick up the phone for us anymore, and we had them on the line real good.
and did.
Okay. We were looking forward to a really good year working with that brand. Like a really good year working with that brand. And then that leads us to the next thing, which is taking responsibility and commitment to change, right? So you don't want to be in, a situation where you're a repeat offender,
Mm.
right? You don't want to show a pattern of this behavior. You want to really take responsibility and realize you really messed up. A couple of years ago, um, I did some sponsorship for this woman who I feel like she definitely took responsibility. It was like a trip across seas, and she just needed gift bag items, like real simple lift. Got her, I think the gift bags might have been worth $250, $300, something along those lines. Very, very simple deliverables. A picture in the hotel, maybe a picture by the Eiffel Tower, social media posts. Super easy. I feel like it was maybe like 4 or 5 brands that I got because it was just a real quick pop. Homegirl ain't do nothing. Not a thing. Nothing. Didn't let me know when the product got there. Like nothing. It was just very like, and then, so I said something about it because one of the brands was asking me questions. So I'm like, hey, what happened? All the deliverables, like you've done none of that. And the particular brand that was asking, she's like, oh, I didn't like the product, so I'm not gonna post about it.
That's dumb. It's just dumb.
Why would you say that?
Yes, it was free. Just you don't even have to say your opinion. Just post it. Dang.
Thank you for sponsoring. That's all.
They didn't have to.
Right, because it wasn't like product review. It was just, it was just a thank you post. And I'm like, I get that, but for this, like at the time she wasn't an influencer. I'm like, it's literally like you literally have to thank the people publicly. Right. So I had like random people doing reviews because I got extra product. I'm like, hey, could you just post this review? And slid it to the brand. Like, she didn't do it, but here's X, Y, and Z. And they're like, no, that's not what the arrangement was. And that severed my relationship 100% with the brand. Like, dunzo. And she did come back to me a couple of months later and wrote me a really nice, sincere apology, which I absolutely appreciated, But there have been other times where people have gone into spaces that, I'm getting you your venue for free. Right? That's a $30,000 savings. And I've had clients that have gone in while I've been out of town and asked the venue for money on top of the $30,000 free space during Fashion Week. And I got cursed out. I've been cursed out by brands. Okay? Cursed out, like down to the ground, like in the most unprofessional way, because I built personal relationships with these people. And if I'm sending you in on behalf of me and you go in there and act a whole plum ass fool, that shit's coming back to me. Right. So when you're working with an agent, and even for yourself, you have to treat these relationships seriously. Like, the worst thing that you can do is not respond and not say anything. Like, if you know you've messed up, you have to take responsibility and you really have to commit to change. And a lot of the times, because the line behind you is so long, they won't fool with you anymore. But at least when they're retelling the story in it, it's going to be like, well, she did come back and apologize. But right. So if they're talking to another brand, they did come back and apologize anymore. I wouldn't fool with them again, but they may have changed. Like they said that they were going to change, and they may have changed.
Right. And we just hope that you change. We can only hope. And that kind of brings us to the next point, where it's almost obvious that it's almost so obvious that it's not, that people don't do it. And that's seeking out and accepting some help. Okay. So let's say you've done this before and you messed up on your own, right? My next thought would be, okay, so maybe I'm not good at this on my own. Maybe I need to call in the reinforcements. Maybe I need to call in someone who's done this before and ask them what they think. I've had people reach out to me. They've done sponsorship on their own and reach out to me and say like, hey, something happened with the person I was working with and we couldn't do the sponsorship. How can I repair that? It's a thing to ask people, because sometimes people like you don't know how to go into certain things like that. And you got to be receptive to it too. So if the brand wants to like yell a little bit. They might want to. They might want to be like, you really ruined this for me. And you might just need to listen to them here and hear it out. Because sometimes these are what people's reputations at their jobs are built on. Like because you're most of the time when you're dealing with a sponsor, you're not dealing with the CEO most of the time. So you're dealing with a marketing manager, partnerships manager, whoever. They have to answer to someone they have to answer to. And you just made them look crazy because they put their eggs in this basket for you. And now you can't do it. So now they have to explain, why are we not sending out these 8 boxes of whatever? Why are we paying why don't we just give $20,000 and now we get taking it back for what? I thought we were going to be able to do these XYZ and hit these goals.
I'm so mad about that. I'm so mad about that, because you have to go through approvals to get yes for the money. So we are
depending on how much it is, it's certain levels, because some people might have a certain level that they can do, but then they're depending on what it is, they might have to go higher than that. So like you said, there's levels to this thing. It's not just you not wanting to do it. And obviously, if it's like an act of God, like something happened, like a fire, a flood, so that makes sense.
Perfect example. I was doing a deal with Jim Beam, and the factory burnt down.
Girl.
Like it was a big thing. Down to the ground, the liquor spilled out into the river, the fish were dying. Like it was a thing. We still had kind of some product, but there was no way that they were going to be able to do, the full event. So, and that's on the brand side. Of course I've worked with them. Of course I'll continue to work with them, right? So on the event organizer side, it has to be catastrophic, like COVID, right? So if you're not doing stuff because it's something like that, but if you're not doing stuff because you don't want to take a picture of the host with the champagne glass, or you don't want to figure out how to play a 30-second ad, that was literally the $20,000 deal. We needed the event organizer to play the commercial for the brand at the event. It could have been with a projector on the floor. It could have been on the ceiling. It could have been on the bar.
You could have got a cheap one from Temu and said, boom, right on the wall.
They could have rolled a TV screen in there. Like it could have been a little, it did not have to be a thing. And they came in at a 10 though. They said that we are willing to give away everything. And we're like, okay, we can get you alcohol and we can get you $20,000 for this event. And then you know what happened? We pulled out. We were like, you can no longer be our clients.
Yeah. Because you have to look, but when we say seek guidance, that's what we mean. We're like, you can't just, you have to know that you're wrong, know that you messed up, and seek some sort of help to rebuild it.
For your guidance, you have to listen. Like you have to actually listen to us, because
we've done it for a little bit.
For a little bit. I mean, 15 years, a little bit, and we're thinking about all those players, right? So not only are we thinking about how it affects you and your event, we're thinking about how it affects us and our company and our other events and how it's affected that marketer. If we're working on a deal, last year we worked on a deal that took about 2 months to negotiate. I had the girl running around, introducing me to salespeople, doing all kinds of stuff, finding a venue during, a really large yearly event. I was running that girl crazy, at the brand for our client, for our clients to just be like, oh no, I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. But then to double back and ask this year if it can happen.
Because we literally, it's ruined. It's done.
It's done.
We can't circle the block because we tried.
All right, so I've been blocked.
She said, "Mwah, blocked."
And then the last point is moving forward, right? So that brings us to that. So for us, when a client comes on and does something like that, there's no moving forward with us. Like, we have to protect our brand, at all costs, and we have to protect our relationship. So no matter how much we like you as a person, and we follow you and we root you on for the sidelines, we are not getting into that game with you anymore. Okay, we will be on that side, like go girl, go guy, whatever you are. But we're not moving forward with you. So you have to be realistic about it. Are these brands going to move forward with you? Your best chance is probably to wait for that person who you did dirty to leave. Yep. And circle the block after they go. Like, I've had to do that before. Like, I'm not on a high horse or anything. I'm like, ooh, let me look up and see if they still work there. Like, oh, they don't. Let me reach out to this other person and, kind of put like, oh yeah, I've worked with the company before, and kind of put that in the fold to get in. But you want to discuss specific actions you can take to improve communication and foster trust going forward. You want to agree on a plan on how you will both work to build that relationship. If they do, there are some very compassionate marketers. I was not one. So, but I wasn't, because literally, as you're emailing me, I see 40 more emails coming in of people who are going to say yes and people who are going to, overproduce. There's a list of overachievers that are going to be like, oh, well, I'll do this and this and this and this. And they're going to give me everything I need. They're going to give me things on time early, So for me, it doesn't always work like that. But there are marketers that are full of compassion, that understand that, will really vouch for you. And like Lily said, when we're in-house, we're proving all of this stuff to our boss. Mm-hmm. So especially when it comes to us brown folks, like, we have to take this very seriously, because we put a lot on the line while we're in-house with our jobs to get stuff done for y'all, right? Yep. So make sure that you are doing what you say you're going to do. If you can't, let us know. If you're like, hey, like if it's a couple of days before the event, hell, even at the event, if you're like, listen, somebody from my staff didn't show up, I don't da-da-da-da-da. If I'm a marketer and you tell me and I'm on site, I'll be like, okay, well, let's get these deliverables done, because I'm gonna get in trouble if they don't get done too, right? So you want to make sure that you're communicating openly and that you're creating a real plan for moving forward, especially if it's somebody that you might have a multi-year deal or multi-event deal with, right? Like if that, because they can pull out, right? If that first event, second event don't go right, you want to make sure that you're on a path that you give yourself. What do you give employees when they don't? A performance plan?
Yes, PIP, performance improvement plan.
You got to give yourself a PIP, okay? PIP, correct. Get it together.
And FYI, if you're working with us, both Enovia and I are event girls, so we get it. So if something like that does happen at the event, we're going to step in. If we got to be bartender, maybe we got to be a bartender that day. We're going to step in. Enovia will shuck and jive sometimes. Like, that's real. So like, especially if you're working with someone like us, I don't know how other agencies work. I don't want to speak for them, but for the most part, if they're a sponsorship procurement agency and they are hands-on with the sponsors that they secure, we're going to be willing to step in to help when it comes down to it. And this is, I guess, kind of the conversation that we've been saying, is just be open and honest and remain consistent with your communication, because the more we know, the more we can help you. And that way we can help kind of facilitate that communication between us and the sponsor. Now, if you're partnering with the sponsor, you need to do the same thing. If you're not going through us and you're going through just you directly with the sponsor, you need to do the same thing too. Because like Enovia said, there are some marketers who are super compassionate, who understand and will be willing to kind of work with you if something happens. You need to be super honest with them about that, because they can probably be like, okay, this messed up, but let me see what I can do on my end to make it look better on the back end that you can't do. But if you're open and honest, tell them what they need to know, then they can possibly massage it and kind of smooth over that relationship on the back end. And yes, it sucks that you messed up on that one, but you don't want to keep dwelling on it, and you want to start thinking about positive things that you can do for the next time. But if it's a consistent thing and you keep messing up, I honestly wouldn't tell you to talk to them no more. Just,
you don't need no sponsors. If you can't get it together enough, then you just don't. You just don't. It's
take that one and stop talking to them. Move on.
It's not for the weak. It's not for the faint of heart. Like if you feel like, oh man, every time you have an event, you're like not getting 80% of your deliverables done,
then we need to reevaluate it.
you need to do
Because
something else.
you might need someone to focus on solely sponsors and the sponsor.
Yeah.
It may not be us, but it may be somebody on your team who's going to manage these relationships. You need somebody to do that, because if you're an event person, you're doing your event, you're focused on getting the event up and running. You're focused on making sure the lights are freaking on. You're making sure that the food is there. You're focused on the logistics, not necessarily this relationship, and you need somebody to manage that relationship. So that's
Manage it.
not just a plug for y'all to hire us, but it's a plug for you to hire somebody.
Somebody, because we be booked up.
Yeah, we do, but we do strategy, so we can help on the strategy. So
strategy.
if we're not in person, we can help your person do the best that they can at the event.
For sure, our individual companies definitely have time for one-on-one sessions and strategies, but pitching, y'all almost on your own. So I can't see any questions. Like, I don't know where I'm supposed to be looking on. Can you
let me
see
see.
questions on yours?
On my live, yes. Let me see.
So we'll answer some questions, and then I'll do a shameless plug. By the end of this week, the planner is launching to kick off for April. So if you need sponsorship things, the sponsorship Shiro planner will give you things to do in less than 15 minutes a day to get sponsorship. It's a 90-day program. So super excited about that. You can buy the planner by itself, or you can buy it's $100. I'm lying. It's $240 if you buy it by yourself. It's $100 if you buy the digital copy. And if you want planner plus support, it is $1,400 for the 3 months, and you get access to me. It's a private Slack group where you can ask. You get unlimited questions in that group. If you're pitching and somebody emails you, you can pop it in and I'll tell you exactly how to respond. So super excited about that. I was trying to figure out how to have like a group work kind of feel, So this is the best I got, and we're gonna have a good time. Do we have questions, Lou?
One is, do you do sponsorship if I live abroad in Grenada?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've never done anything in Grenada. But
I haven't done in Grenada, but I've done in Montserrat, in the Bahamas, working on stuff with Cayman Islands. So yeah, definitely choose your poison, me or Lily.
Because I don't have it.
Oh, well, I guess.
but if it's like pitching stuff, maybe.
Yeah.
Because
the strategy is real similar.
Because you've been really good with Board of Tourisms in general, of a lot of the Board of Tourisms, both in the States and abroad. So it's not unfamiliar territory if it's the pitching you're asking for. But if it's like other type of stuff, I think I would defer to Anovia, because
it's me.
Guys actually talk to those folks.
My email, I'll put it. Can you put it in the chat? I don't even know how to do this. I can put it in the chat right here.
I guess it depends on where you're looking at. So if you put it in that chat, it'll go to LinkedIn.
It might be on the. I put it over there. It says the Sponsierge.
Okay.
Sponsierge live. Do we have more questions?
Not that I see here. Just comments.
Because we're still building the Sponsierge, so there's one person watching over there.
Hi, Sponsierge watcher.
Hi, thanks for following us.
My mom was here for a second and said blessings. Hi, Mom.
Oh, thanks, Mom.
That's it.
That's it. We're done and done. Bye, y'all.
All right. We will save this so you can watch it later, and talk to y'all soon. Peace.